This is Ambition Today.
Hello, baby, guess who's back? Yeah. It's been a minute. I know you miss me, yeah. Kidding.
What's up, world? My name is Kevin Siskar, and this is Ambition Today, where we analyze success with the most ambitious people for the sake of entrepreneurial science. Like a modern-day Napoleon Hill, we unlock the secret lessons in which you can achieve success, grow your startup, accomplish your goals, and try to change the world today. Last episode, we talked to Patrick McGinnis, and he told us how to be a 10% entrepreneur in your spare time, and he also coined the internet meme FOMO, fear of missing out. If you want to hear why, go check out that episode. But today we are joined by Jeff Stewart. He's the founder and chairman at Lenddo. He's also one of the most helpful startup mentors I know in New York City, and I'm really excited to have him on this episode.
Happy to be here, Kevin.
Thanks, Jeff. Today's episode of Ambition Today is brought to you by TopTail. Visit toptail.com/ambition today to hire the top 3% of freelancers from a growing network of the best custom software developers and designers. This is Ambition Today.
Looking to make your dreams come true? Needing that extra push to become more successful? Then you've come to the right place. Welcome to Ambition Today with your host, Kevin Siskar.
What's up, world? You are listening to Ambition Today, and I am your host, Kevin Siskar. I am at the Siskar on Twitter, and you can add me on Snapchat as KR Siskar. We're doing that now. Snapchat's on the up and up, Jeff. I blog about startups, technology, and life at siskar.co, which is, of course, the home of Ambition Today. On today's episode, we are joined by Jeff Stewart. He's the founder and chairman at Lenddo. Jeff is an entrepreneur, inventor, and investor in New York City. And like I mentioned earlier, he is also one of the top mentors in the New York Founder Institute. So Jeff, thank you for that, and welcome to Ambition Today.
Happy to be here.
So where are we today?
We're in the New York office for Lenddo.
I love it here. So let's just dive into it. So where did you grow up?
I grew up outside of Philadelphia in New Jersey.
Okay, and what was that like? Small town, big town, blue collar?
If you ever saw the movie Risky Business, where they're raking the leaves and the picket fence, it looked a lot like that town.
Okay, did you have any entrepreneurial influences when you were growing up? Uncles, strange grandmas?
Yeah, early on I read Carnegie Mellon autobiography, and I think that had a big impact. But my grandfather had a business, my father had a business, my other grandfather had a business, and I think after reading that autobiography on Carnegie Mellon, I said, yeah, that seems like a good idea. I like to build things, and he certainly built his fair share of things.
What was one of your favorite things from Carnegie?
Well, I like the way it wasn't just building the factory, but it was building the whole system, the financing, the distribution. It's a complex organism, building a company, and I like that. At first, I wanted to be an architect, but here you get to build things that are even more, hopefully more enduring, but certainly more complex.
Yeah, you get to breathe life into almost a whole new organism. I like how you worded that. So anything else from your childhood?
Nope, that was the only thing. Nothing else from my childhood.
Well, I'm sure there's more. But you then went on to Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. Mm-hmm. What did you do there? What did you study?
I studied business. I was attracted to RPI because it's the oldest engineering school in the country. And at the time, I thought that the way you built a business is you invented something and then you built a company around it. So I went up there and met with among other things, met with the dean of the business school, and he pointed out that you didn't actually, if you loved starting businesses, you didn't actually have to become an engineer first. You could study business itself, and pitched me on the idea that being in such a tech-heavy environment would be a good foundation for starting a business. And I got my first computer when I was a kid. Loved writing code, loved the dynamicism of the PC and the software industry, and was bought into his pitch, and felt like I got a good education there. But even more important, met Dave Utendale, who was my first and second company co-founder.
How important do you think having, even though you may have not, firsthand learned all that, engineering. How important is understanding that in working with engineers and building products and handling the business part of building a business?
Well, I think one of the great things about business is there's lots of ways to win. It's like poker. You could be good at math. You could be good at reading people's bluff. You could be good at bluffing. You could be good at self-mastery. Business is the same thing. But for me, understanding the underlying technology is important. I think it informs strategy. It certainly informs what's possible. And although they don't let me touch the code anymore, I think the fact that I have an appreciation for what's involved makes me a better manager and certainly makes it easier to spot opportunities.
So then you went on and founded Square Earth, correct?
Yes.
Was this your first company?
It was my first company after college, yes.
And so what was Square Earth?
Well, it had pivoted several times in the first couple weeks. The basic premise was that the internet was going to be so big that it would make up for the fact that we didn't really know what we were doing as far as starting
what year
a
was
business.
this?
This was 1995.
1995.
And I was a management consultant at the time, living out of a suitcase, and as part of a broader project, got to play around with the World Wide Web. And
The information superhighway.
Yes, the cyber world. And I was working for the NASDAQ, was my client, and found 800 companies online and thought this was pretty interesting. But when I came back the next day, there were 1,600. So this was growing very, very fast back in the mid 90s, and realized that so much was going to change. It was going to have as big an impact as the railroad or electricity and the automobile, and wanted to be a part of it. So started Square Earth at first. We thought this crazy idea of selling books online, realized that would never work. Some sort of restaurant guide, realized that would never work. And then settled on the idea that how you deploy software on the internet would be fundamentally different than client server or mainframe, and that there needed to be a methodology for launching websites and extranets and web browser-based systems. And built a company, built Square Earth for about 18 months. Anyone who would listen to us, we were telling them about the World Wide Web, mainly large corporations, and about 18 months into it, after all these meetings, very little revenue, the phone started ringing off the hook, and we just took off. Eventually merged with another company called Proxicom. We bought a third company called Ibis, and that company under the name Proxicom eventually became a $2 billion, 1,200 person e-commerce consulting company.
Wow. And building websites wasn't easy then. It wasn't really clear, right?
Yeah, it's gotten so much easier.
There was no Squarespace. I mean, I think the earliest website I probably built was 99 or 2000, and I think I built it on Max Pages or something like that I'm sure is gone now. But if you're going to own everything, the servers and everything, you had to do all that. There was no Amazon Web Services. There was no, correct?
Correct. We purchased a Spark server. And had it sitting in our living room when we started the company. In 1998 started at Mimeo, and it took 18 months just to launch. Technical proof of concept, first order, and during that time we hired 45 developers. We had we had to set up servers and data centers and just massive software development. Today you would provision those servers through AWS. You could be live with a bulk of that functionality much faster, and measured in weeks, not months.
Right, and the cost is so much less now. I mean, what would all that? It's up to you if you want to give that out, but millions, hundreds of thousands to get off the ground?
Oh, it was millions. I mean, we also we built a factory at Mimeo, so So the building was there, but we put the digital printing facility in place. It was 140,000 square feet. It integrated with the software, so it was a sizable undertaking. Which in 1999.
Let's just take a step back. So let's jump to your second company, Mimeo. So what does Mimeo do?
So Mimeo does internet-based printing, helps with document distribution, management. We do digital rights, and we have a network of digital print facilities. Our largest being one that we own in Memphis, Tennessee, that's fully integrated with a FedEx hub. We also have one in Europe, in Newark, and then we've federated it out and are integrated with facilities all over the world. So mainly large corporations, as well as business professionals, can press a button and their computer, their systems talk to our systems. We distribute the documents. We do tens of millions of dollars of training material, tens of millions of dollars of proposals, presentations, all from taking digital documents, turning them to hard copy, or in the management of those digital documents.
And what sort of, like, mostly legal documents or anything, or brochures?
A lot of training material, but it turns out that documents are the backbone of business, and there's lots of scenarios where you want to know who's looked at what and what version is which version and where does it need to be. That whole logistics, distribution, even manufacturing of digital documents is where we've cut our teeth. And now we're about 900 people.
Oh, wow.
Doing that, yeah.
About what, 15 years later? 16?
Yep.
Nice. So what were some of the lessons you took from your first company, Square Earth, when you started Mimeo, and you really would embed in other founders that are starting a company now? Well,
like Square Earth, it's all about the team. We had a great founding group, and it really is a group. I think that founding a company is to paraphrase Kennedy. Success has many fathers, and failure is an orphan. But I really do think when you succeed in a startup, there's a lot of critical people who were involved in that process. And for both Square Earth and Mimeo, and every company since then, that founding team has really been a critical factor.
So you started Mimeo in 1998. How did the .com crash, or did it affect you and your founding team? Was that something you had to bring the company through, or?
Absolutely. So we had raised $21 million. We launched in February of 2000. We had the top bankers ready to file a bridge round in conjunction with an S1. There was talking about $2 billion valuations. It was an exciting time.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, and this within the same day of having our first dollar of revenue. It was very exciting. And I think because we're in New York and we had a background on Wall Street, we saw the bubble popping, I think probably a little earlier than others, and moved very, very quickly to try to contain our burn rate. But at the end of the day, we were burning north of $80,000 a day at that point. The big pressure was, Wall Street expects you to grow fast, and you don't want you need to have that capacity. You need to be ready. So we had overinvested in infrastructure, and we had to tighten our belt and weather the storm. And 2001. My recollection is raising $12 million in a time where it took a year, and it was a really tough environment for raising money. And we went from 135 people down to 65, while simultaneously hiring 15 salespeople. So it was a tight time, but we made it through, and today we have thousands and thousands of satisfied customers at Mimeo.
What, because you went through that, and right now everyone in tech and startups is talking about the bubble bursting again. Have you been following that?
Mm-hmm.
So what parallels do you see? Well, and is it even happening, or is it just the media needs something to talk about?
Yeah, I think more important than the experience of going through the lean times and after the bubble popped in 2000 was starting a company based purely on cash flow. we invested $1,200 in Square Earth. I lived on macaroni and cheese. I ate so much macaroni and cheese, my skin turned the color of macaroni and cheese. And I think when you build a business based on cash flow, it focuses the mind, and at the end of the day, that lens is very helpful, regardless of what's going on in the world of capital availability. And I think that good ideas get funded. So I think if the bigger issue for an entrepreneur is, have they thought out their business plan? Are they providing value? And the funding cycle, although it can have a tremendous impact, I think is also dependent on where you are as a company and where you are geographically.
So after Mimeo, Mimeo's still around. Mimeo's still live.
Mm-hmm.
You stepped away from Mimeo as the full-time founder,
Mm-hmm.
and then you were an entrepreneur in residence at DFJ Gotham, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for the audience listening that maybe doesn't know, what is an entrepreneur in residence, and what did you do at DFJ Gotham?
Sure. So after Lenddo was up and running and we were proceduralizing and scaling sales, I started planning and assembling a team for the next business. And the folks at DFJ Gotham had a position, asked me to join them as an entrepreneur in residence. And after spending a year of my life raising money, I said, it's probably good to understand the venture world from the inside, and really looked at it as a great learning experience to get perspective from that side. Also, as an angel investor, so it was nice to be able to compare notes. But my takeaway from I get often asked, what is an entrepreneur in residence, and in talking with other entrepreneur in residence, I think that the definition is very, very broad. Some venture firms, it's someone that they'll use to vet ideas. For other venture firms, I think it's someone they hope they can involve in a company that they're starting. Try to pull them in as a full-time manager or co-founder. And I think for others, it's really very structured, and others it's very flexible. So in the case of DFJ, they have a phenomenal network globally, which they do a good job of cross-pollinating ideas and relationships across that network. But pretty quickly, I was spending my time on my next venture or series of ventures, some of which, after deep research, were not worth pursuing, and some of them turned into ideas.
So what came after this? This is the urgent brand. It's like I think I call it that. I don't know if you call it that, but you had a few different things. And how did this come about? What did you envision for your next startup at this moment?
Well, at that point, and even today, I think that if you can have a customer before you incorporate, you stack the deck in your favor. So one of the things that I was doing is I was vetting different ideas back then, and even today, as we're regularly vetting ideas, is approaching large corporations and saying, if we built this, would you be a customer or would you be a distribution channel? The process that we've developed, sort of the urgent process for launching companies, which I would say is a sort of a predecessor for the lean startup methodology, is you vet the idea by a large corporation, and the idea that really took off back then was this idea that you could monitor the internet and use that information at first for running your business better. So we were talking with senior executive at IIC, and she said, "Yeah, all this stuff shows up on the internet, and I'd be willing to pay if I could be notified." So went back, did a technical proof of concept, presented it to her, and she said, "Oh yeah, this is great. I'd pay $1,000 a month for this service." I'm thinking, "Oh, this is great. I know what's involved."
Awesome.
Yeah, awesome. So then, as developed the idea further, thought, well, hedge funds. We had some fair amount of familiarity with how hedge funds work and what they're looking for. Maybe they'd be interested. So approached some hedge funds and said, "Would you be willing to pay $12,000?" And they said, without blinking, "Oh, we pay at least $12,000 a month."
Even more awesome.
Even more awesome. So we then stopped talking to large corporations. But the point was this was getting very early feedback from organizations that can write large checks helped us move faster in vetting these various ideas.
And so what was this called?
That was called Monitor 110,
Okay.
and which was a pre-cloud machine learning company that analyzed data as it showed up on the internet and distilled that down into forms that were useful for hedge funds.
So what happened with that?
We were too early. We were pre-cloud, and had over 100 servers. Anytime we wanted to try a new machine learning algorithm, it meant weeks of expensive resources, reconfiguring expensive hardware. We did a lot of machine learning here at Lenddo, and we'll fire up 200 servers, in an afternoon over coffee to test an idea.
Right.
And that ability to bring that type of processing power to bear, even things like Hadoop, the infrastructure for machine learning and artificial intelligence is so much more advanced than in the mid 2000s. And I think a takeaway from that is something that Bill Gross from Idea Lab has articulated very well, is this idea that timing really matters. And if you look at social networking, 6 Degrees was years ahead of Friendster and Facebook, but a lot of people don't know that because they were early. And in that case, again, it was a technical. I remember talking with Andrew. It was a lot of technical infrastructure to do critical functionality that today you could not quite drag and drop, but you could deploy pretty quickly.
So Square Earth, Mimeo, Monitor 1010, and then you started the Urgent Group.
Yep.
And what was the Urgent Group?
So the Urgent Group was really we've founded around the idea of how do we set up standing resources for the vetting and ideation of ideas. And because what we find is that some of these ideas, you start researching them, years in advance of it all coming together. In the case of Mimeo, we weren't working on it full time until 1998. But as early as 1992, we had gotten together and done research, vetted it. And in 1992, it was a horrible idea. There was no internet. It was going to be dial-up modems. The digital print technology, toner-based manufacturing hadn't evolved yet. Also, in 1992, you couldn't go raise $21 million to fund an internet idea.
Right.
So
not without a 30-page business plan.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And funny for Monitor for Mimeo, we did. It was at least 50 pages
Wow.
business plan. I've been in angel investing since the 90s, and I don't think I've seen a business plan in 10 years. It's show me your prototype, show me your PowerPoint. And I think that lean approach is much more effective. As Steve Blank says, a startup is not a scaled down business, large business. It's really it's an experiment to prove out a business model and find a scalable path to building a business.
All right. Well, real quick, I wanted to, because you did have a few different ventures as part of the Urgent thing. I just wanted to rapid fire these. So you had Urgent Speed, which was your blog, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what was the goal there?
Just to organize thoughts
Love it. It's a great blog. Everyone should check out urgentspeed.com. Urgent Career.
Yeah, so I'm obsessed with the idea of getting great people into your company, and particularly hard position to fill is the sales role. Even companies like IBM that have very mature sales forces, they estimate that their success rate is 50-50. So in the interest of capital efficiency, in the interest of scaling quickly, if you can get better salespeople, you can grow faster. One of the best kept secrets in business is that more salespeople generally sell more. So how do you get good salespeople so you grow even faster? And had a theory that we could use machine learning techniques combined with behavioral assessment to assess salespeople. And this is important because good salespeople aren't going to go fill out long forms and fill out questionnaires and really work their way through the traditional behavioral assessment process. But you can't interview them. So we were taking transcribed interviews and matching that back to behavioral assessment information to detect patterns for behavioral assessment out of text blocks. And simultaneously deconstructing sales processes of successful and growing sales organizations. So we had 32 dimensions of characteristics of sales organizations. Usually, any 8 to 12 were really important, and then we would deconstruct the character traits and assess the salespeople and match them together. And it was growing. It was venture backed. We had hit profitability. We were really excited about the business, and in parallel to that, had been working or thinking about Lenddo. Realized that Lenddo had the potential to impact billions of people. Got really excited about it, and I remember the day going to our venture backers and say, well, the good news is we hit profitability. The good news is we hit our technical milestones. The bad news is we want to shut down the company and essentially focus on something else. And it continued on as essentially a recruiting company. We were doing recruiting as a way to get the data to build the algorithms, but the technical team stopped working on Urgent Career, and we started working on Lenddo.
Nice. Well, let's take a quick partner break, and we're going to get into a little bit about what Lenddo is when we get back. So we'll be right back.
This is Ambition Today with Kevin Siskar. We'll be right back.
Today's partner of Ambition Today is TopTal. Visit toptal.com/ambition today for a free 2-week trial with the top 3% of software developers and designers. That's TOPTAL.com. As a listener of Ambition Today, you'll receive a no-risk trial period of up to 2 weeks with the top talent in the world. You can get a lot done in 2 weeks. Go out there, build your MVP, kick that early version of that product out of your head, and you get to keep all of the code, all the work that was done, anything during that 2 weeks, even if you are not 100% satisfied. It's so easy to get started and integrate TopTal talent right into your team. You start the onboarding process, and almost immediately someone will connect with you via Skype and get you set up and going. Jeff, have you hired outside developers?
Yes.
And what was one of the main takeaways from that you would wish other people to know?
Well, I would say that the variation in quality is tremendous, the orders of magnitude. And one of the best ways to figure out who's better is to start working with them.
And so if you could optimize the pool of people that you started with, just the top 3%, would that help?
Absolutely.
Great. So visit toptal.com/ambition today to get started working today. Also, today's promo code for your free Ambition Today sticker on Siskar.co is AMBITION. Head over there and pick up your stickers. And now back to this episode of Ambition Today.
You're listening to Ambition Today. Visit us now at Siskar.co.
Welcome back. We are here with Jeff Stewart, and we were just talking about the 3 different companies he started before, his other occupations and his other time helping entrepreneurs. So Jeff, now it's 2010. You've started, I think, 4 companies. You've helped countless other companies through your own venture efforts and through DFJ Gotham. Why not just hang it up? Why do you start Lenddo?
Well, we became fascinated with the problem of financial inclusion. We had employees all over the world from different companies we were involved in, and they kept coming to us asking for loans, which didn't make a lot of sense. They were hardworking, they were educated, their incomes were going up, but they in places like the Philippines and Indonesia, China, Ukraine, they couldn't access credit. So we had a theory that technology could be used to solve this. So we hired a research team, we dug into it, and stumbled upon the work of Professor Yunus, who found Grameen Bank, actually got a Nobel Prize for his work in involving the community in the underwriting process. We had a hypothesis that we could use data from the community, your digital footprint, who you interact with, how the community interacts with you, and we could predict who would repay a loan, just like in microfinance where it's extremely effective. So we not only felt we had a solution, we also discovered it's a massive problem. Hundreds of millions of people moving into the middle class. Globally. Places like Indonesia and India, Brazil. So we first thing we did, we knew from our experience in machine learning, is you need the data sets. And these data sets take years to build because you need to match the mobile social footprint, which quite frankly didn't exist prior to 2010. And you need to match that data up with loan repayment. So we went to a bunch of financial institutions. We said, we'd like you to make bad loans so that we could build our algorithm.
What did they say to that?
They politely showed us the door. One of them told us they couldn't figure out why we wanted to lend to peasants.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, it's
But these are your employees they're talking about.
Oh yeah, I think this is the middle class. This is the future of the planet.
Right.
We've actually never had a more vibrant, faster growing middle class globally, and we very quickly realized to get this data, we were going to have to set up our own lending companies. So we launched a financial services company in the Philippines, in Mexico, and Colombia, and we issued thousands and thousands of loans. And with that data, over time, we got really good at handling these data sets, your online behavior, your social data, and we got really good at turning them into algorithms. And what we found was that these algorithms, in fact, our core algorithm works in every country.
Really? Across all the different cultures?
Yep. Something anthropological about how community works, we're able to observe. And it shouldn't have been too much of a surprise. Before we launched, we showed this to a retired banker, and he said that that's actually how finance worked for hundreds and hundreds of years, going back to biblical times. It was about your reputation in the community, and what we're doing is a piece of what we're doing is algorithmically understanding that. So in 2004, we had gotten to the point where we could prove it to ourselves, and we had enough data to prove it to others. Our lending companies were essentially our alpha customers. We then, second half of 2014, we brought on some beta customers, streamlined the process of adding more financial institutions, realized we had also solved a problem of identity, all this data.
What do you mean by that?
Well, one of the things about giving people money, sending money to strangers, is it's embarrassing and not very profitable when you send the money to the wrong person.
Okay.
So we had solved this problem by looking at their digital footprint. But this is a big issue for financial institutions. KYC AML, it's called, Know Your Client. If someone takes a loan out on your behalf, you'd be pretty upset. And you'd be pretty, as a financial institution, be pretty sure you'll never see that money again. So what we do is we do a social verification. Is this person who they say they are based on how they're known in the community? This is particularly important in places like Indonesia or the Philippines, where you may not have a central registry. You might not be able to pull up everybody's passport out of a database. So the social verification combined with our algorithms, allow us to help lenders be extremely efficient and financial service providers be extremely efficient in how they service customers. And we launched those services in early 2015, and now we have clients in Korea and Nigeria, in Indonesia and in India, in about 15, 16 countries, Peru. And the common factor is heavy use of social applications like email or Facebook, and heavy use of the smartphones. And I think as hundreds of millions of people around the world get smartphones, they should very quickly also get financial services thanks to Lenddo and our Lenddo technology.
I think this is fascinating, especially because you touched across all these cultures. You almost isolated like a human condition, right? And I think that's great how you said that that's how finance used to work, right? For thousands, millions of years. So can you give me like an example, I guess, of how this has maybe impacted someone in an emerging market for firsthand story?
Sure. No, and this one of the nice things about when we were lending directly ourselves is you'd get feedback directly from the customer, and it was inspiring for us. We're working long hours, slinging the code around, and we'd get an email. Thank you, my sister now can go to school because of a $400 loan, or thank you, my grandmother has the medicine she needs because in my country we don't have healthcare. We pay cash for the medicine we need. That feels good. I particularly like, my thing is urgency. I put a very high premium on your time, and I'll never forget one of the people we talked to was able to get a motorcycle, and his commute was almost 2 hours. So 4 hours a day he was riding in the back of a Jeep to get from his home to his office, and he got a motorcycle. That dropped down to 45 minutes. So
I love that it's impacting lives all over the planet, and people are paying back, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Awesome. So over the years, you've spent tons of time with founders. You've now analyzed millions of individuals all over the world through Lenddo. You've hired numerous people. You've seen and just met tons of people all over New York City and all over the world. So I guess my question is, after all this experience, right, 4 companies, all this, stepping aside from business and going more into like the human condition, right? What do you look for in a great person in general? What makes you think in your head, I need to like hang out or work with this person, or this is a great person?
Well, I think drive is clearly important, and I think hard work it will solve a lot of problems. It's not always the smartest person that wins. A lot of times it's the person who's willing to work hardest. But as we work with startups, particularly the founding team, I think it's the dynamics of the team itself that's so important. It's starting a company is a lot of work, and having complementary skills, being able to trust each other, having a shared work ethic is really, really important. So I think that certainly there are critical attributes for individuals, but the chemistry of the team is also critically important.
All right, now flipping that question a little bit, what should founders look for in advisors? I guess great advisors or mentors or put it to build around their companies.
Yeah, again, I think it's a team. In my experience, I've always had mentors, and they played an important part of my career, and then in the companies we've started. But for a company, they need different types of mentoring at different times. So, if you're growing quickly, you're going to outgrow your mentors. But one of the things that I see in disruptive companies is that they're treading into new ground, and they tend to need expertise that span industries. In the case of Mimeo, we're bringing high velocity, lean processes, and really a financial services self-service perspective to an industry that used estimators. We wanted to build an entire process where we could make money on a $70 order in an industry where they would look for $15,000 orders and setup fees. So we had advisors that were both experts in print, but also experts in digital technology adoption. I think that having both served us well. The other thing is, as an entrepreneur, if you're pushing boundaries and swinging for the fences, there's things you're good at, and then there's things where you just don't even know what you don't know. And one of the things that what we look for in advisors is people who will help you vet ideas and help you determine are there angles you're not even looking at or aware of, and at the same time, have you figured this out and can move on to the next challenge.
All right. Well, let's take a moment. Let's move on to the Ambition Today question of the day. So today's Ambition Today question of the day is, how important is being in the right location to achieving your goals?
So as I mentioned before, timing is absolutely critical, but location is critical also. For Square Earth, being in New York was very important. It was a vibrant startup community, especially around the internet, World Wide Web, and those what we call Internet 1.0 founders. We stay in touch today, and a lot of them went on to start additional companies, and we have a tight knit community here. But location can mean many things. Lenddo is a global company. We have operations in Singapore. We're a Singapore-based company, actually. In Manila, in Colombia, in New York, and you find different talent and different opportunities in different locations. In our India office, there's certain skills and certainly a better interaction with our clients there. So opportunity is everywhere, but I think that there's huge opportunity to take advantage of what your location is best at.
Thank you. So, to everyone still listening, listen up. If you enjoy the show, and thank you, Jeff, this has been a great episode, then go please leave a review in the iTunes store. If you don't know how to do that, just visit siscar.co/review, and you can leave your review in 3 quick steps. Thank you, everyone, for the help. Also, if you're enjoying this episode, text it to someone. Click that little share button in the iTunes store or the podcast app and just share it. So, Jeff, thank you for coming on today and sharing your story. This has been excellent.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Where can people go find out more about you? Where should they go check out?
I'm sure there's a link at the lenddo.com site, and then on my Twitter.
And what's your Twitter handle?
Urgent Speed.
Urgent Speed. All right, check out Urgent Speed on Twitter. Check out Lenddo at lenddo.com. And stay curious, everyone. I'll see everyone on the next episode of Ambition Today. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Ambition Today with your host, Kevin Siskar. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit www.siskar.co. We'll catch you next time.